Before we actually look at the answer to this, can somebody, I want to, spend some time before we get into the reading and writing exercises, reminding you of the amount of paraphrasing that you will have to do in this class. And I hope that, even though it wasn't the assignment here, I hope that you guys, even just in your heads, are paraphrasing as you read. In other words, trying to make sure you understand what this says, what this whole little sentence here says. Can somebody put this sentence into their own words? Briefly. Okay. Put it into a sentence. Again, this is where our old friends, it will, when you do this, when you go to paraphrase things, you will need a complete sentence. You will need a subject, a verb, and a complete idea. And one of the best ways to approach a paraphrasing assignment, when you're asked to feed back to somebody, you read a college text and the teacher says to you, okay, tell me what you just read. And you're thinking, well, I read it, but I can't put it into my own words. That says to me that you didn't understand it. Okay? And that's what I am tasked with doing here, is getting you to the point where you can understand what you're reading and you can put it in your own words to prove that. That's the only way I can see inside your head. That's how I can see that you really did understand what you read. So who is doing the action in this little situation here? Okay, yeah. She, or the child, yeah. We don't know who she is, but she is doing the action. What is the action she's doing? And again, remember, you're putting this in your own words. If she had been vulnerable to all kinds of illnesses, was she well all of her childhood? No. No. Okay.
She was open.
Okay. She was sick some of the time?
All the time.
All the time? Okay.
Most of the time.
That's what I'm looking for when I say paraphrase. You notice I didn't use this word, I didn't use this word, I didn't list the illnesses. This is a paraphrase. This is a basic paraphrase. This is what this sentence says. She was sick all the time when she was little. Does that make sense to people? Okay. If you have made an attempt to do that before you try to do this, that's going to make it a little bit easier. So she's vulnerable. If she was sick all the time when she was little, was she protected from illnesses? No. Was she expecting them? Does a child expect illnesses necessarily? That might work, but there's a better answer. Was she open to attack? Yes. Yeah. That's a better answer. Okay. Untouched is the same as protected. Okay. So you see how it helps if before you try to, and again, that's back to the directions quiz. Our human nature is we want to get something circled as fast as we can, but we need to slow down, make sure we understand what we're reading, then go back and try to figure out what to read. Did anyone have prior knowledge of this word? Have you heard this word before? Yeah. And then again, that's fine too. Then you can just answer it. But make an effort to read these things. Now, something like this, it's neither here nor there. It's just a sentence. This one is another issue. I have all these notes here, and then I don't really need to do this, but I guess I do. Last hour, I had forgotten to make copies of the book, so I was actually using this to write on. This hour, I went and made some copies before class, so I don't have to do it. Now, this little paragraph is a little bit different. This girl that had all the illnesses, we don't know who she is, or we don't care about ever hearing about her again, right? Okay. But when we talk about prior knowledge in a reading class, Lorraine Fleming, who is your textbook author, and I are heavy in the history department, okay? We're interested in history. I noticed that a lot of the little paragraphs that she chooses tend to be about either history or psychology. She does have pieces from many different textbooks, but I noticed that she seems to lean toward history and psychology, which is interesting. The thing about history is, it's not just important to history classes. Knowing why we are where we are today is important. Knowing how the world got to where it is and what happened in the past. Okay, it's important to any major, all right, having some idea of the state of the world. So when we get to talking about the world wars and religious wars and things like that, I would kind of like you to think in terms of not just passing that over the way we do something like this. Does anyone have prior knowledge of this? Okay, George, how do you know how to pronounce that?
Versailles.
Yeah, it's a French word. So it's the Versailles Treaty. Okay, and what was that? Do you know? Can you tell us what it was?
It was a treaty that was Germany was forced to sign at the end of the war to just to break it up and to help make sure that they wouldn't get back to where they were.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of have to have a little bit of idea of what's going on here to understand what, not necessarily what this word is, but to understand what the example is, okay? According to one of the provisions in the Versailles Treaty that ended World War I, okay, the Germans were not allowed to use the coal mined from their coal-rich Saar region. Instead, coal coming from the Saar region would be used by France. Okay, so who is the subject here? Subject, verb, complete idea. The Germans. Okay, the Germans did what? Did what? Say it. Well, all right, this is where we start to get into trouble. Well, in this sentence, are the Germans mining?
No.
Okay, that's where it starts to get into trouble here. The Germans were not allowed to use the coal mined in this region. Okay. Were they allowed?
No.
No. Were not allowed. So, whose coal is this?
France now.
Well, this is the problem. It's their region. So what this is saying is the Germans are being told that they're not going to be allowed to mine coal from their own country, a part of their own country. Okay, and this goes to what George was saying. Who is, and this is an interesting verb because this is called a passive verb. The Germans aren't really doing the action here. Somebody else is doing the action. Who's doing the action of not allowing?
France.
Yeah, France, United States, and England. That's what's going on here. So again, this is prior knowledge of World War I. Who was in World War I? Who lost World War I? The Germans. Okay, so these other countries are saying, all right, we don't want Germany to cause us any trouble anymore, so we're going to restrict their access to energy sources and other things. And in doing that, we're going to try to keep Germany to be a less powerful country. When was World War I?
19.
Yeah. Yeah, 19. Here's the thing about this history stuff. Memorize the dates of the wars, and you're halfway there. Go through history, memorize the wars, and you've got something to hang it on. Okay? So, here's what's going on. The Germans were not allowed to use their own coal, again, very broad, after World War I. Okay? That's a paraphrase. All right. Did that work?
No.
No. No, it didn't work. Because what happened after that? The Germans, the people in that war were trying to suppress the Germans as a power. And then what happened? World War II. Okay, yeah, so it didn't exactly work. So, but again, if you're looking at this and you see Versailles Treaty, okay, what my dearest hope is from this class is that when you step into another classroom and somebody says Versailles Treaty, you are at least going to say, I've heard of that. I think that had something to do with World War I. Okay, I'm not asking you to memorize it, but by the time you get through college, you are going to have a bigger bank of prior knowledge that you have put together from all these different things. That's what college is all about, okay? But you have to work at it. You have to approach things like this as not just A, B, C, D, but what can I learn from what I'm reading, okay? All right, let's go on a break before we do any more of these, and then we'll come back. They're not all gonna take this long. So let's go on a break until 2:10, and then we'll come back and finish these and go on to the prior knowledge.
Isn't that what exceptions? Exceptions?